Buenos dias, all. RGT85 here. Hope everyone's having a great day. I have my little cone head hat on. I don't know why. Looks like I have dreads under here. This hat just likes to go up. Hope everyone had a great Mother's Day yesterday, or just enjoyed their weekend if they do not celebrate Mother's Day. I went over to my grandmother's house. She cooked a lot of food. A bunch of people came over there. I gave my cousin 50 bucks, and I was like, all right, buy her a gift from both of us, thinking that she would get her something good. She got her a hummingbird feeder, and like grandma and grandpa have this weird thing about bird feeders that like a bear is gonna come and like eat the bird feeder and then eat them in their sleep. So I looked at her and I was like, why the hell did you buy a bird feeder? And like right as she opened it, grandma was like, did you ever see that video online where like there's a hummingbird feeder on a wire and the bear crawls across the wire? And I'm like, Jesus Christ, she hates it. But that's okay. I bought her some rodent spray while I was over there. It's for the outside of their house. But you're not here to hear about these sorts of things. You're here to hear about video game news, a couple stories going on that I want to cover. First time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Yes, I do talk about video games on this channel, not just random life stories, although I do sprinkle them in sometimes. But without any further ado, let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games, and let's clear up some misconceptions and talk about an issue that was prevalent over the weekend featuring Xbox. Now, I'm not an Xbox hater. I don't understand where this stigma came from. I think the Xbox Series X is a phenomenal piece of hardware. I actually really like the system. I like the interface of the system. I like the controller for the system. I think I actually like it a little bit more than the DualSense controller, because the DualSense controller is very bulky and just obnoxious, whereas the Series X controller, it's nice. It's comfortable in your hands. I don't need these, all this bulkiness with my controller. My hands are small, I know, but they're not yours. They are my own. But as far as the games for the Xbox Series X are concerned, it hasn't been the smoothest path. There's been lots of good third-party games, but the first-party stuff has obviously been a bit lacking. And of course, you have Microsoft buying up all these studios, so I'm sure the future will be very bright. But just looking at the intermediate, there have been some disappointments. Halo Infinite for me was definitely a disappointment just because of the lack of content on the online multiplayer stuff. Well, speaking about Xbox Live has been having issues of outages pretty much all weekend long. It is a bit better today, but it seems like this was a prevalent issue, and people were quickly starting to realize something. They weren't able to access some of their disc-based games or games that they had already downloaded that weren't contingent on an online server because of things like DRM. Now, there was a workaround for it. If your system was like your home console, you should have been able to access things like that. But the problem is the overarching problem here, because we have that this was a problem to begin with. And I think it really shows just how wonky video games are in the current century, because you still have this mentality where you buy a disc, you buy a cartridge, you buy something, you pop it into your system, and then you can play the game. You don't have to worry about things like online connectivity unless it is an online-based game. We talked about this with Gran Turismo 7. It is a single-player it's a single-player game that has online racing components, but the meat of the game is a single-player. And you can't access Gran Turismo 7 unless you have an internet connection, which just absolutely baffles me, because it makes no sense. It's a single player based game. It's not based on online racing. And we're seeing this more and more, people having this realization of the all digital age. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, the all digital age is coming soon. The next consoles won't even have a disk drive. And it's like, do you really want that? Because yes, while I have high-speed internet and you might have high-speed internet, there are thousands, millions of people in the United States who don't, because it's not available where they are. They live in a more, rural area. Maybe they live out in the woods. One of my best friends picked up an Xbox Series X for Christmas, and he was astounded that, there were these massive downloads. And I'm like, well, just download the stuff and then play the game. He's like, but I bought the disc of the game. Why can't I just play it off the disc? And I'm like, bro, they don't make them like that anymore. Like, that's not the case. And he has real crappy internet. It literally took him like a full day, like a full 24 hours to download things in order to be able to play the game in general. Not just play the game online, but play the game in general, the single player component of the game. And I feel like this outage, and of course, the whole Gran Turismo 7 thing, is finally starting to open people's eyes to this sort of stuff. You should not be contingent on an online connection to play a single player based game. To play the online stuff, of course, that's a main thing. You have to have online in order to access the online components. It just makes sense. But I don't understand why we're hiding all of these games behind DRM, why we're just making discs that are essentially pointless, because a PS5 disc And an Xbox Series X disc, it's pointless. It's essentially just a token in order for you to access something that you have to then download. So it does have a place in the marketplace for, you know, reselling and getting money back on your purchases. But beyond that, as far as actually playing the game and experiencing the game, it's a paperweight. It's not even a paperweight because it doesn't weigh anything. So I'm hoping and praying that things like this Xbox Live outage over the weekend, which wasn't a worldwide thing, some regions weren't impacted at all, but it was a prevalent thing in the United States for a lot of people. I'm hoping that this is finally starting to open up people's eyes between this and Gran Turismo 7 that, hey, we need to fight back on this sort of shit. You know what I'm saying? We need to fight back on this stuff because it's ridiculous. Gaming should not be contingent on having an online connection unless it is an online only game. That's my theory on this, and I don't understand why that theory is such a, you know, controversial thing, because it just makes sense to me. So let me know in the comment section down below if you experience any sort of issues with Xbox Live over the weekend, with not being able to access games that you already have bought. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to access the online portions of the game if Xbox Live was having issues, but what about the single player portions? Did you run into anything with this situation? Let me know in the comment section down below. And finally, we're going to talk about something that I don't really understand where all this is coming from, because I keep seeing it. I keep seeing it on Twitter. I keep seeing it from various content creators, and this isn't a shot at them or anything like that. I'm just kind of questioning where all this is coming from. And obviously, judging by the title of this video, you can tell where I am going with this and what my question pertains to. And that is this June Nintendo Direct, because I keep seeing articles online, I keep seeing videos pop up online of new details, new information about the June Nintendo Direct, some new spoilers, new leaks, and then I watch these videos, I read these articles, and I'm like, you're not talking about anything. You haven't said a single containable thing about this, a single thing of substance about a June Nintendo Direct. And it's like, oh, is the June Nintendo Direct going to be at Summer's Game Fest? We got a bunch of new information. Jeff Keighley is doing his Summer Game Fest at this point in time. And I'm like, what does this have to do with the Nintendo Direct? I'm trying to find this information, this honeypot of information, so I could be like Winnie the Pooh and eat the honey, or the bear on the line going for the hummingbird feeder. See, I bring everything back full circle with this. But yeah, and it's just kind of like, what the meat of the situation is, what the meat of the conversation is that there's probably going to be a June Nintendo Direct because Nintendo always does a June Nintendo Direct. So just going by statistics, just going by how Nintendo does things, there's going to be a June Nintendo Direct. No shit. No shit. I think it's pretty well established that there is going to be a June Nintendo Direct, simply for the fact that we don't know about the second half of the year. We don't know any release dates. We don't know really any games and stuff. Nintendo did their February Nintendo Direct in the month of February to talk about stuff up until the summertime. And then during the summertime, they do another one. And then in September, they do another one to talk about the first half of 2022 or 2023 in this case. And it's just like, this is common knowledge. This is common knowledge. Look, I get it. A lot of video game news is pretty dry right now, and I understand that. It's been really a weird year for video games in general. A lot of things haven't popped off like people wanted to, so you gotta find something to talk about. Now, you could accuse me of finding something to talk about by looking at other people's stuff and judging, you know, what they're saying and stuff, and you know, you could definitely make a case, but I just want to bring you guys a little bit of the realness. As of right now, which is May 9th, there is absolutely no sustainable information about a June Nintendo Direct. There's no tangible stuff. There's no sizable leaks. There's nothing. There's not a date, a time, what to expect. There's nothing. There's nothing. And until further notice, because I will probably be one of the first people to talk about it when it is announced, because I literally sit at home and wait for stuff to talk about, and then I rush downstairs to talk about it. You know, there's nothing. There's nothing. So I understand it's fun to get excited for a June Nintendo Direct. And obviously, there's going to be stuff that we probably know about. I assume Bayonetta 3 is going to be there, since that's potentially a 2022 game, at least according to Platinum. But then you look at things like Babylon's Fall, and it's kind of like, do we really want a Platinum game in 2022? We already got one. Wasn't great. But as far as the Nintendo Direct hoopla and stuff, yes, yes, more than likely, there will be a June Nintendo Direct. Now, until we start getting some tangible information, or at least a leak that looks somewhat realistic that we could talk about, let's just calm down a little bit. Let's just bring it back a little bit, because there's other stuff to talk about, or you could just, not talk about anything. But yeah, Nintendo Direct in June, more than likely. I just summarized all those videos and articles for you guys. It's based on just time and how Nintendo usually does things. Alrighty, so that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to give me all your feedback in the comments section down below. What do you think about this Xbox? And really, it's a PlayStation situation as well. The whole DRM stuff, is it a major problem? Did you experience any problems with this? And I guess, what do you expect from this mythical June Nintendo Direct that more than likely is happening, and there's really no concrete information on it? I guess we're just speculating, which is fine, but I don't know. It's just kind of weird to me. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. They're announcing Metroid Dread numbers tonight, and, it'll be a thing, man. It'll be a thing. Hope I don't have to play that top hat son of a bitch. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.